with its predecessor being praised as one of the best video games ever made. It's no surprise that Hades 2 was announced as its sequel at the 2022 Game Awards. While Early Access was originally meant to launch in 2023, Supergiant Games decided to hold off, wanting to ensure that Hades 2's standard of quality was up to par with what fans came to expect after Hades, and other hit titles like Bastion and Transistor. It's now May of 2024, and thanks to a recent surprise release, there's a ton of new information about Hades 2 available for interested fans. Number 9. Hades 2 is out now on Steam in Early Access. The original Early Access window for Hades 2 was delayed from 2023, and little word on when it would be playable surfaced until news of a technical test in April 2024. Players could sign up on the Hades 2 Steam page for a chance to test an early version of the game, with promises that Early Access would follow soon after. Surprisingly, much earlier than anyone thought, the full-fledged Early Access build of Hades 2 launched officially on Steam on May 6, 2024. Supergiant Games says the original Hades was designed with Early Access in mind, to incorporate players into every step of the development process, and Hades 2 is no different. Hades 2 will be in Early Access through 2024, though there's no hard window for when it'll officially, fully launch with more features and even more polish. Interested fans can pick up Hades 2 now on Steam for $30, and Supergiant Games stated the price may rise depending on how much more content is added throughout Early Access. Number 8. Hades 2 follows Melinoe, Zagreus' sister. Instead of being a continuation of Zagreus' story, Hades 2 follows his younger sister and princess of the underworld, Melinoe. She and her family happily lived in the underworld before the Titan of Time, Kronos, escaped and wrought havoc upon their home. Believing that Melinoe is destined to defeat Kronos and bring peace back to the underworld, Hecate takes Melinoe and trains her to defeat Kronos and save both her family and her home. Melinoe's basic weapon is a staff, seeing as she was trained by a witch, and her basic kit is themed around magic much more than Zagreus was. The classic Hades boons and enhancements are still there, but with some extra flavor this time around to ensure longtime players still have a fresh, unique experience while playing as Melinoe. Number 7. Hades 2 relies less on dashing and more sprinting. Zagreus and Melinoe both start with 1 dash in Hades and Hades 2 respectively, but the latter doesn't have any way for players to gain additional dashes. Instead of getting extra dashes or putting her dash on a much shorter cooldown, Melinoe focuses more on the large burst of movement speed she obtains after dashing. Enemies' attacks, as well as many of the boons players can choose from, are designed around this large gameplay shift. There are many attacks in Hades 2, especially from bosses, that can only be dodged by making use of both the dash and after sprint mechanics. There are also many boons that do various things during Melinoe's sprint, like shoot lightning bolts at nearby foes, or reflect incoming projectiles while burning the attacker. Both help give Hades 2 a fresh feel that separates it from its predecessor. Number 6. Hades 2's cast combines both new and familiar faces. When Melinoe begins her journey in Hades 2, she's trying to rescue those closest to her, meaning fan favorites like Zagreus and Nyx are nowhere to be seen. While this is a huge motivator in fighting to get them back, Hades 2 makes sure that fans don't feel their absence too strongly, with the presence of both lovable new and returning, redesigned characters. Returning characters to Hades 2 include Hypnos, Aphrodite, Artemis, Demeter, Poseidon, Zeus, and Chaos. Among Hades 2's new cast of characters are Eris, Moros, Nemesis, Apollo, Hephaestus, Hera, Kronos, Hecate, and Selene. Both new and returning characters are beautifully designed and packed full of the personality that Hades' cast is known for. Number 5. Hades 2 has a mana system to enhance Melinoe's basic abilities. Since Melinoe was trained by a witch, her general kit is themed around magic and spellcasting much more than Zagreus was. All 3 of her main abilities, her basic attack, special, and cast, can all be held to cast a more powerful Omega version that also consumes some of Hades' 2 new resource, magic. Each ability has a standard, resource-free variation players can cast, along with a version that either makes it ranged or makes it cast instantly, depending. This new Omega system adds a completely new level of depth to Hades 2's combat, allowing players to craft all kinds of new builds that weren't possible before. There's also a perk that slows down time while Melino channels her Omega moves, making it easier to avoid damage and charge up those heavy attacks on foes. Number 4. Players collect resources to unlock and upgrade facilities between runs. Hades does have resource collection in the form of currencies players can choose while traveling between rooms. Hades 2 expands on this system even further by introducing both numerous resources that can be mined during runs and various tools which excel at collecting different resources. Players no longer pick resources as room rewards, instead mining and picking them inside of rooms that already offer more impactful, direct upgrades towards players' builds. Some resources can be mined without a gathering tool, and these resources are also used to unlock them. There are 4 gathering tools in total: the Crescent Pick, which mines ore; the Tablet of Peace, which collects resources from shades; the Silver Spade, which digs for seeds that can be grown; and the Rod of Fishing, which enables fishing, another essential resource gathering activity. Number 3. Hades 2 already has more environments and enemies than the original Hades. Although Hades 2 is still in early access, with a lot of planned content still missing, it feels like a complete experience as is. Certain things lack the polish of a finished Supergiant product, but there's already a shocking amount for players to sink their teeth into. In fact, as stated in Supergiant's early access description for Hades 2, the sequel to Hades has more environments, enemies, and fully acted characters than the complete base Hades game. If that wasn't enough, Supergiant Games have also released a small roadmap, showcasing the future content coming to Hades 2 that players can look forward to. These future updates include another region with more new enemies and characters, a 6th weapon and new weapon aspects, and additional upgrades when it comes to the cosmetic, non-combat side of things. Number 2. The Arcana card system replaces the Mirror of Night's upgrades. Hades offers players the Mirror of Night, granting meaningful upgrades in exchange for darkness. Each upgrade has 2 varieties players can pick between, and while these enhance gameplay, there isn't any deeper thought behind them. Players pump darkness into the upgrades of their choice until they're maxed. In Hades 2, the Mirror of Night has been replaced with the Arcana card system, with 25 cards in all. Each card offers a different gameplay upgrade, and there's a point system that dictates how many cards can be active at once. While the number of points players have can be upgraded, it won't go outrageously high as to let players use all 25. This naturally leads to more thought and diversity being put into Arcana card builds, and it perfectly fits the witchy theme woven throughout Hades 2. Number 1. Players can deepen their relationship with characters on hot spring dates. Despite being a roguelike, which aren't typically known for their expansive social elements, Hades offers a plethora of ways to bond with characters and learn more about them. Characters open up little by little as players interact with them and give them gifts, leading to a more staggered progression that feels natural. Hades 2 expands on this by letting players purchase a hot spring, which they can then invite various characters to for special artwork and an intimate bonding session. This doesn't always mean players will be interacting romantically with these characters though. Characters in Hades 2 are proudly themselves, and there's no shame or inherent sexual nature behind characters bathing nude together. In many cases, players instead see characters peel back their outer layer and reveal more of their vulnerable inner selves. Those were the 9 important points for those interested in checking out Hades 2. If you played the first Hades, did you like the updates in the new title? If you're already playing, comment below what you thought of the sequel and if you recommend Hades 2. For more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Until the next video, and stay geek.